Hey guys, it's Paul, combat veteran, MMA fighter, YouTuber, and today we are checking out a Majorkill video. This is what the Traitor Primarchs did after the Horus Heresy. And once you lose a war, the answer always should be, I can't say it, piss off. Maybe that'll get me demonetized. Anyway, let's get into it.
Primarchs are the creme de la creme. Shrouded in destiny, these literal demigods are second only to their big shiny daddy. And Crocs. Everyone is second to Crocs.
Crocs are what's up. I love the idea that orcs were once both tactical geniuses, like they were just as motivated by war as they are now, but they were 10 million times as smart.
In their prime, each Primarch conquered thousands of worlds, their very existence causing strain on the fabric of time and space. The return of Goleman has pulled the Imperium back from the jaws of total collapse and has made defeating
the Imperium literally did get split in two, so I don't know if I'd say he's restored it from total collapse. He's like stalled off its horrific collapse at best.
Chaos once again an option, whilst the legacy of the long-dead Horus continues to plague mankind to this very day. So it begs the...
By this very day, he means, of course, many days in the future.
Question. If Chaos was able to walk away from the Horus Heresy with 7 intact Primarchs and the Imperium lost like all of theirs soon after the Emperor cosplayed as Stephen Hawking, how the fuck hasn't Chaos...
He's 48 seconds in. I think he may be okay. He may be okay. So, sorry, I'm complaining about this because YouTube has very strong policies against extreme profanity in the first 30 seconds. I don't know why they think that once someone has been exposed to 30 seconds of a YouTube video that they've matured enough to hear profanity, but I don't ask the questions, I don't write the policies, I just collect the checks.
1. Well, it turns out that joining a faction called Chaos isn't very good for your organizational skills. And if there's one thing I know, it's that to conquer the galaxy, you need to be organized.
I'm surprised he can confidently know that.
Goleman hasn't pussy whipped the galaxy back into the Imperium's favor because he can punch really hard or, destroy your brain from behind. He's done it because he has out of this world organizational skills.
Okay. I appreciate him acknowledging the truth that I also repeatedly rant about, which, by the way, this is going to be an extra ranty video because, Uncle Paul's drinking his medicine. Yeah, the fact that a Primarch who is punchy-fisty is, on a galactic scale, it just isn't worth it. Okay, all right, so there's, 87,000 seconds in a day. And let's say, literally, the enemies of man lined up in front of a Primarch in a single file line, and the Primarch just punched them to death. Just wham, one shot, knocking them back. Okay, so if he was doing it once a second to kill 1 million enemies, which is a drop in the bucket, he would have to do it for, let's round it up. We'll say 100,000 are killed per day. And so you end up with, to kill 1 million, it would take you 2 weeks. 1 million enemies, right? The population of like one pretty sparsely populated planet. At that rate, the Primarchs would never be able to kill their way out of anything, right? We would still be on Mars punching the Void Dragon. Instead, right, their advantage is in their ability to lead troops. This is the truth about militaries, right? Is that the warrior kings went out of fashion in the Middle Ages and were replaced by larger, capable organizations where senior leaders were rewarded based on tactical prowess and organizational skills, while junior soldiers fought in the trenches, so to speak.
So what is the Traitor Primarch's excuse? What have they been up to since the Horus Heresy? Today we'll go over what each of the Traitor Primarchs have been doing since Horus bit the bullet, before talking about where they are today. If we're feeling cheeky, we might even make some educated guesses as to what they'll do next. Let's get into it. We'll start off with Horus, because chronological order is overrated. Horus is special, not because he nearly killed the Emperor or, lost all his hair despite the 30th millennium probably having great anti-hair loss creams, but...
Listen, I've said this before. The Primarchs that go bald skew towards chaos. There are some bald Primarchs that didn't. And some people theorize that it's so they can connect those tubes to their brain. But I think it's just resentment. The Emperor was just like, I'm going to give, despite you being perfect in every way, divine, the spark of the divine is in every Primarch. Despite that, the Emperor was like, the Emperor, a man who doesn't suffer from male pattern baldness, by the way, was like, my children, I'll make sure that half of them do. That's a pretty big FU, which I know on the spectrum of parental failings of the Emperor of Man, that is not that high on the list. But I think it's illustrative, right? Of just like, we could give you some great looking hair. Some of them got it. You know? Your boy Fulgrim has great hair. Magnus, great hair. Sanguinius, great hair. Horus, bald. How could you not? How did you not think you were going to build up some resentment?
But because out of all the Primarchs, only he was completely obliterated from existence. Whilst other Primarchs like Fenris and Sanguinius did die, there is a sliver of their soul or presence still lurking about. Horus, on the other hand, got cum-dumped so hard that his soul has ceased to exist, so he's been doing literally nothing since the Horus Heresy. In saying that, he was cloned once. However, Primarch clones without Primarch souls are about as useful as a Velcro dildo, hence Abaddon was able to clap the clone of Horus like it was nothing. Now we have Fulgrim, who may as well have died considering how little he's done. By the end of the Horus Heresy, the Emperor's children and their Primarch were completely fucked in the head. They stopped attacking the Imperial Palace during the Siege of Terror, and instead just rounded up scared civilians and then turned them into cocaine. I'm not even kidding, that's exactly what they did.
Whoa, that seems chemically difficult. Needlessly difficult, in fact.
Once the traitors had lost, they all pissed off to go do their own.
Also, it doesn't seem like that requires a level of organization that I don't think Chaos Space Marines really have in them, right? Because cocaine is a pretty refined product, you know? It's got like, there's 7 or 8 steps from harvesting coca leaves to refine it into something that can be bricked, packaged, and shipped. And even once it arrives in the United States, it's often changed into other forms like crack cocaine or laced with other drugs. So to make civilians into cocaine, you would have to first engage in some alchemy to turn people into coca leaves. And then you would, of course, have to have this very organized system of refinement. Though I guess you could use the civilians to refine the cocaine. That would be on brand, actually.
Weird Emperor's children shit, such as Russian starfish orcs or masturbate with sandpaper. Before Fulgrim completely retreated, he baited Goleman into a duel, which is a pretty fucking stupid thing of Goleman to get baited into. Turns out a gigantic rape snake with 4 arms is more powerful than a Roman Aryan with a flaming sword. Hence
I really think Goleman is a Napoleon-inspired figure. When I see a lot of the artwork, it looks Napoleon to me.
Goleman was put
And Robute, that sounds pretty French.
into a 10,000-year coma. After this, Fulgrim retreated back to the Eye of Terror, and he created his own pleasure planet, which he rarely ever leaves because, you know, it's a pleasure planet. He did, however, leave it once to answer Rylanor's distress beacon on Isstvan III. Rylanor, as we know, is the best fucking dude around, and was able to be so honourable and noble that the 1,000 Sun Sorcerers that were with Fulgrim allowed Rylanor to blow up the planet, killing them just to inconvenience Fulgrim. Fulgrim's
Okay, that's some like 4-dimensional chess. I'm not even going to speculate on how that came to pass.
demonic body would recover from this, but his pride never would, hence he retreated back to his pleasure planet to suck on some demon titties. He remained there until the return of Goleman, which caused Fulgrim to attempt to corrupt Goleman to chaos, which, you know, obviously failed. Since then, Fulgrim has been spotted in real space for the first time in thousands of years, leading what remains of the Emperor's children to wreak some havoc. Someone who has been even more absent than Fulgrim is Perturbo. Perdy was the first traitor to abandon the Siege of Terror, even before it was clear the traitors had lost. He did this because he was doing all the work whilst his brothers were off railing the ashes of millions of people. However,
Yeah, that sounds like the level of pettiness that... that's not even a Primarch level of pettiness. That is a classic human level of pettiness.
he still wanted to show Rogel who was boss, hence he baited him into attacking an unbeatable fortress. Needless to say, Rogel got his ass whooped, and for his efforts, Perturbo was elevated to Demon Prince of Chaos Undivided, much to my and a lot of fans' dismay. They didn't have to make Perdy a Demon Prince, and it just doesn't suit his character, but whatever.
You may not have a choice. Just going to point that out there. When an all-powerful god who you've just made more powerful tells you you're getting promoted, that's not really a choice. You don't get to decline that.
As Purdy is a Prince of Chaos Undivided.
And like, honestly, sometimes it's like, you know how the people who would be the best managers, right? The ones that like really care about people and are kind of chill and like think ahead, they are always the ones who never want management positions. And the people that would be terrible, right? The egotists, the micromanagers, the lazy or like corrupt, they always like cannot be kept away from management positions. Maybe it's the same thing when you're a demon prince, right? Like Chaos is just like, listen, we need somebody who's technical. And every person who's technical never turns to Chaos, and when they do, they're just like, I'm okay being a space marine. And so they finally showed up and were like, no, you're gonna do it, right? Makes sense, because if you're Chaos, right, and you came to power once by corrupting AI, you'd want like a technical engineering genius, right? Which is Perturbo, I think, right? Especially for those damn Tau with their stupid AI. Chaos is just waiting to get them.
He doesn't really have to do what the Chaos Gods want, only if they all agree on something, which pretty much never happens. So he hasn't had to go fight the Space Wolves or try and give aids to Ultramar like his brothers have to. In saying that, he hasn't just been idle. In the Eye of Terror, Purdy engaged in a massive battle against Mortarion and dueled him non-stop for 7 hours. Eventually, Nurgle's pestilence and attrition began to overwhelm the Iron Warriors, hence Purdy was forced to retreat. Well, I guess those brothers kissed and made up or something, because they soon teamed up to create a computer virus, which was also a literal virus. This got uploaded to the Mechanicus' networks, and it caused numerous Forge worlds to fall, as their machines turned into demons and shit.
I mean, though, based on like servitors, right, a computer virus would have to also be a literal virus.
Keep your antivirus up to date there, Mars. How many times have I told you about this? Purdy would play a reasonably passive role in Abaddon's Black Crusades, offering him advice and weapons, but not his own battle prowess. However, with the fall of Cadia, the big man himself is kicked into gear,
he was really lacking some power armor there.
sending out his Iron Warriors to siege some of the most heavily fortified worlds in the Imperium. For Purdy, if it ain't a challenge, it ain't worth doing. Now we have Lorgar, the man who started the Horus Heresy, and the man who gained the least amount out of it.
That is actually really historically accurate. The Spanish Civil War that looks actually not too different from the broad strokes of the Horus Heresy, in the sense that the Spanish military basically split in two, and a lot of their expeditionary force in Morocco, they formed the initial core of the rebellion against the elected government, right? But the actual general that started it is so irrelevant that I can't even remember his name, right? Because basically he was taken over by Franco, right? Franco sort of rose informally through the ranks of this coup, and by the time the general that actually started it died in a plane crash, or possibly a plane crash, Franco was already de facto running the entire war. So again, that makes perfect sense.
Lorgar wasn't even present during the Siege of Terror because Horus beat the shit out of him when Lorgar tried to stage a coup. Since then, he's done a lot of sulking. If you think Perturbo feels underappreciated, then boy, let me talk about Lorgar. When the traitors had all fled to the Eye of Terror, something followed them. A dark mass of ravens, Vengeance Incarnate, Corvus Corax. See, the Raven Lord had figured out how to embrace his inner warp powers, hence he was able to turn himself into a demon, but like, not a chaos demon. As such, the Wordbearers had a really shitty time, with Mr. Raven slaughtering them like pigs. Lorgar came to Corvus and was like, I have ascended to demonhood and unlocked my power. You are nothing compared to me. And Corvus was like, yeah, cool story, bitch boy. And then he proceeded
In that voice, probably.
to kick the ever-living shit out of Lorgar, forcing him to run away. Now the lore says that Lorgar has been in his tower meditating for 10,000 years, but I reckon he's just been playing a fatal game of hide and seek with Corvus. Pussy. I hope he comes back into the lore for a bit to fight Goleman, just for
So wait, Corvus Corvax is not dead? He's just fucked off to the warp?
Corvus to arrive, so the
Okay, here's what's really curious to me. The Primarchs are supposed to be dedicated, focused, and committed to being defenders of humanity. But they have like a 60% rate of just fucking off into the warp. Just literally being like, I'm tired of this shit. Like literally every one of like a third of them, if you haven't died, you've taken your toys and gone home. I get it. Your dad sucks. But like 10,000 years of sulking? Come on, guys. Get over yourselves.
G-Man and the Raven Daddy can kick the shit out of him together. It would be a really wholesome brother bonding moment. Next up is Conrad. Over the course of the Horus Heresy and even the Great Crusade, Conrad's sanity had been slipping more and more. By the time Horus was dead, Conrad's brain was cooked as shit. He took his legion onto a world and made a palace out of living flesh. Bit grim derp in my opinion, like how the fuck would that even work, and oh man, the smell. Conrad...
You could pull it off. You would just need some genetic engineering, but that wouldn't be that hard. I mean, that's like, basically if you've seen a Tyrannid, you've figured out how to make a palace out of living flesh. Out of people's living flesh? Nah, a little harder to do.
Sat in his flesh fortress.
But you could do like the Rick and Morty style, where you just take human beings and you strap them to the outside of your palace of living, like Tyrannid flesh. That would be easy.
For a bit, until an assassin arrived to kill him. Now he easily could have killed the assassin, however he wanted to prove a point, so he let the assassin cut his head off. R.I.P. Conrad, missed by literally nobody. There's a theory that one of the jewels he was wearing was actually a soul gem that his consciousness now resides in, but nothing has come of that as of yet. Now we have Mortarion, who has been a busy little bee, buzz. Considering he's the champion of the big fat lazy ass god, Mortarion has been very active, leading countless wars within the Eye of Terror and real space against the other forces of Chaos and the Imperium. When the heresy ended, Mortarion fled to the Plague Planet and he recreated it in the vision of his home planet of Barbarous. He even put himself at the highest peak, just like his Lich King father did all those years ago, hence completing Mortarion's hypocrisy. Just like Fulgrim, Morty would get his own embarrassing encounter. After killing the Supreme Grand Master of the Grey Knights, none other than Cawdor motherfucking Drago
No.
kicked his ass. He carved a name onto his heart and then he banished him back into the warp. That's gotta sting. Morty would go on to capture quite a few systems in real space and use them to launch the Plague Wars against Ultramar. This war was devastating and it looked like Morty could win, until Goleman arrived and evened the odds. Morty would shit in his hand and throw it at Goleman, whilst Goleman responded by spraying multi-purpose cleaner on Morty before rubbing it in with a ShamWow.
So this sounds like basically the big 1-9er versus all of us, right? Just bleach wipes versus people.
It truly was a battle for the gods. Eventually, Nurgle wanted Morty to retreat to defend the Nurglite worlds in real space from the other gods of chaos, but Morty wasn't super down with that. He wanted to kill Goleman, hence he defied Nurgle and he injected G-Man with the God Blight, a virus that could kill a Primarch. Goleman then died. But he survived! So the opening of the Great
Warp, guys. It fixes everything and causes everything.
Rift had woken the Emperor up, because there was so much fucking warp juice everywhere now. Hence the Emperor possessed Goleman, kicked Morty's ass, then proceeded to kick Nurgle's ass, like Nurgle genuinely took some damage, and it seemed as if the forces of the Plague God are going to be benched for a decent while, especially since Morty has been a naughty boy and is now going to get quite the spanking from his green papa.
I always wonder that too. Like, okay, you're a god of chaos, and like, yes, you have a will, but like, when you defy that will, are they gonna be mad? Like, it's tough to explain. It's like, if time is immaterial to you, right? Like, if you could see the future and the past and experience them as almost concurrent events, then you will never be surprised, right? You'll never have something surprise you because you've literally seen it already, or you've seen it, right? So how can you be shocked when you order someone like Mortarion back and he doesn't do it? You must surely know that Mortarion, right, who you know as perfectly and intimately as you know anything, is going to not listen because they're so fixated. The Primarchs just love, getting fixated on each other. So again, is this like some sort of Zeech like, oh, I order you back, but I know he'll stay, and so it's part of my scheme? I mean, that has to be how it is, because again, gods and time operate weirdly.
Speaking of spanking, we now have Magnus, who is the other Traitor Primarch who has been quite active in attempting to fuck over the Imperium. Key word here.
Those tusks. God, they're so stupid.
Here is attempting. When Lehman broke Magnus's back, and then Magnus was crudely teleported to safety, his soul was shattered. Hence, in the years following the end of the Horus Heresy, he spent a lot of time putting himself back together. The issue is that the majority of his good and kind soul shards have been either destroyed or been made inaccessible by Magnus. Hence, all that remains of him is bitterness and power. Clearly not enough though, as he has invaded Fenris like 2 or 3 times now, and each time the Space Wolves were able to send him screaming back to hell.
That would actually make sense, right? If you're a perfectly engineered being, it's like any other it's like any other carefully engineered device, right? If you picked out one thing, one part of your Rolex, even if it was small, it would throw the whole watch off. The balance, the timing, the pendulum inside, right? Everything would get thrown off because it's such a precise engineered piece of equipment. You know, you scale that up to the point of literally a divinely constructed piece of equipment, which is, let's be honest, basically what the Emperor thought his Primarchs were. And even a tiny loss of some traits that carefully were meant to balance each other is going to turn him into an idiot, right? I mean, maybe not literally, but like not someone who could stand against, again, even just a bunch of chapters of Space Marines.
But Majorkill, he does a lot of damage to Fenris each time, and he stabbed out one of Lehman's hearts. Why does no one remember that?
Timmy, you Magnus-sympathizing cock junkie, silence. Ruining Fenris is like nuking the Middle East. It's already a fucking shithole.
Whoa! Uncalled for, friend. Uncalled for.
So ruining it doesn't actually do anything.
Wow, this is meaner than I'm used to even Majorkill giving us.
After multiple humiliations, Magnus decided.
Guys, if you're from the Middle East, I'm here to tell you. Maybe you didn't click on Combat Veteran because that was a meanie. You guys have some awesome food culture. And your art is sick. So, you can come to my Discord and chill and talk Warhammer stuff. Okay? You don't need this guy. You need this guy who wants to nuke a whole region. That's not cool. That's not cool. And it's kind of beautiful, right? In a different sort of like, yeah, it's not like a jungle, but like the mountains in some of the regions are awesome. The Gulf, right? I've heard is beautiful. Yeah, no, forget this noise. You can come party. You can come party with us. You gotta give me one cursed meme in the Discord though. That's what I want. One really funny cursed meme.
Decided he would try and kill Goleman before Goleman could get to the Emperor. Well, lo and behold, Magnus was humiliated again and sent back to the warp. Again. He finally decided to embark on some more realistic goals, and has since retaken Prospero, his original homeworld, and even brought his planet of sorcerers into real space. Love him or hate him, you can't say Magnus hasn't given it a red hot go. Now onto the Angry Angron. We give Angron a fair bit of shit on this channel, but to his credit, he has tried his best to do some stuff since the Horus Heresy
I love that. I love that that's the high watermark of like, he's tried to do stuff, you know.
ended. A lot more than Lorgar and Fulgrim at least. His first act since the Heresy was to attack the Imperium with 50,000 Chaos Marines, and they actually did some damage. Over 200 years, they took over, which is, code for fucking raped, 70 sectors. However, the damage they did was temporary, and they were eventually driven back. Angron would then re-emerge and attack the world of Armageddon, only...
Okay, this, well, I guess if you have, like, infinitely spawning demons, the math is a little different, but 50,000 Chaos Space Marines, right? That's only 100,000 sets of eyes. So, like, unless the world is, like, a mining colony, which is deserted except for, like, 2 occupied areas, there's just not a lot of stuff you can do to this thing you've conquered, right? It's sort of like how, again, in the Middle Ages, right, a territory would get conquered by a new army, but like, I wouldn't care. It's just changed who you signed your tithes and taxes over to. Nothing else would change, right? Often there was exceptions, right? The religious wars are their own thing, but that's just because like enforcement's hard, organizing people's hard, and it's really hard when you talk about planet after planet when you have 50,000 to start. I imagine every time they lose a couple, so.
Only to have his sword broken and his ass drop kicked back to hell. Angron was almost re-summoned back to Armageddon recently after the fall of Cadia. However, with the help of some friendly salamanders, the Imperium was able to put a stop to that shit. Probably for the best. There are way more interesting Traitor Primarchs that deserve their time in the sun. And finally...
Yeah, Angron I kind of hate just as a character. Just this, like, again, the, like, clunky Deus Ex Machina of, like, he has special anger nails. He's got anger devices on him. You're just like, okay, it's pretty cheap to just be like, instead of actual character development as to why he's consumed by rage, we're just going to give him a literal, I mean, it's literally a Deus Ex Machina. It's a machina. It's a machine. We're just going to give him a machine that's like, his personality is anger. And I'm like, okay, great writing, GW. Like, these are your 20 central characters. You only have to write 20, and you had 30 years of this franchise. Longer.
Finally, what is Alphareus Amigan up to? Well, Alphareus, or maybe Amigan, died to Rogel Dawn during the Siege of Terra, leaving Alphareus, or maybe Amigan, to lead the scattered Alpha Legionnaires. I'm of the opinion that Amigan still lives and is subtly influencing the Alpha Legion to aid the Imperium, but considering we haven't actually seen him since the Heresy, it's hard to know for sure. I've dived into this topic a lot more in my Alpha Legion videos, because there's just so many breadcrumbs and theories to unpack, but for now, just remember, Amigan is currently doing something. Or maybe it's Alphareus. With the recent spotlight on Magnus, Mortarion...
Okay, I mean, I appreciate that this character is just like tricks on tricks on tricks, which is funny because to me it's perfectly Zeech, right? It's perfectly aligned with Zeech style chaos.
Angron, it's time for them to get subbed out. I think the return of Lorgar and Purdy would be really interesting, and open up the door for the next Loyalist Primarch to wake up from his slumber in the bowels of the rock. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be. We're only $1 per month give you access.
My god, the e-girl Rogel Dern, fanboy Rogel Dern, right? Yeah, well, do subscribe to his Patreon. He's a good guy. He tries his best, despite wanting to nuke the Middle East, but that's okay. That's okay. It's the internet. You got free speech, and yeah, he seems like broadly a decent person, and I'm here to, call people out once in a while. Okay, guys, thanks so much for dropping by, checking this out. Be sure to check out the merch store. Come join us on the Discord. And, of course, if you really want to support the channel, you can become a member. Check the link down below. Membership gets you exclusive access to the Discord channel and certain rooms in the Discord channel. And it also gives you access to submit and vote on my Friday reaction video. And on top of that, it gives you exclusive access to when I stream on Team Fortress 2 to party in the streams if you're a Team Fortress 2 guy. So I try to make it worth your while, but basically it's a way to support the channel. Other than that, guys, thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.